At her wedding, my stepdaughter chose to overlook my presence, opting instead to embrace her biological father in my stead. Yet, when the moment arrived to settle the bill, I had vanished. For more than 2 decades, I have shared my life with my wife, Sarah. Upon our first encounter, she was navigating the challenges of single motherhood with her 5-year-old daughter, Emma, by her side. Emma was a spirited, inquisitive young girl whose laughter had the power to illuminate any space. When I first laid eyes on her, she was darting after a paper aeroplane in the park, gripping Sarah's hand firmly as they approached me. In that fleeting instant, a whisper within me revealed that they were destined to be my future. Right from the beginning, Sarah was candid about her history. Emma's biological father, Mark, was a figure of inconsistency, a man whose life was marked by hollow assurances and transient visits. He would ring in the birthdays, leave behind modest presents, and then vanish once more. Emma's heart would flutter with anticipation each time he appeared, while Sarah endeavored to temper her hopes. As Sarah and I deepened our relationship, she was unequivocal in her declaration that Emma held the foremost place in her heart. I embraced that with open arms. What I never anticipated was the profound depth of my love for her. It didn't happen all at once, but gradually, each heartfelt, "I love you, Dad," and every charming drawing with my name misspelt captured my heart. I witnessed the moment she finally mastered riding a bike, a triumph born from numerous tumbles and scraped knees. I stood by her side as the night deepened, her body burning with fever, cradling her gently while Sarah hurried to fetch the thermometer. As she prepared for her inaugural school recital, I dedicated my time to guiding her through the lines of her poem until it flowed effortlessly from her memory. On that momentous day, she quivered behind the curtain, yet her gaze sought mine in the crowd before she began, yearning for the comfort of my presence. I have always been. Mark, in contrast, existed merely as a figure in the periphery. He offered grand assurances. "Next summer, I promise to take you to the beach or to finally get you that bike you've been wanting," though I never quite managed to follow through. Emma would weep when those vows crumbled, and I was always there to gather the fragments. I never wished to be the cause of her dwindling belief in her father. With the passage of time, the connection between us deepened. I was the one attending her school meetings, assisting her in selecting the perfect graduation dress, and cheering her on from the stands during her games. She referred to me as Dad, and though our connection wasn't forged by blood, I understood the depth of her sentiment. That is precisely why the events that followed shattered me. When Emma embarked on her college journey, I stood by her side without a moment's doubt. I took care of the majority of her tuition, the cost of her books, and even the rent for her modest flat. Though it required a financial sacrifice, I remained unfazed. I wished for her to embrace the opportunities that had eluded me. Mark, true to form, continued to embody inconsistency. He would occasionally reach out to express that her father was proud of her, yet he never provided financial support or took an active part in her life. As the ceremony concluded, Emma rushed towards me, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. "I am deeply grateful to you, Dad, for all that you have done. Your support was indispensable to my success." In that instant, each sacrifice resonated with a profound sense of purpose. When Emma shared the news of her wedding to Andrew, a wave of genuine excitement washed over me. I envisioned leading her down the aisle, a poignant moment that encapsulated all we had experienced together. I never voiced it, yet I held the belief that the honor would rightfully belong to me. Indeed, I had stood by her side through each significant moment. The days preceding the wedding brimmed with anticipation. Emma spoke of her dress, the blossoms, the melodies. As is my custom, I extended my support by contributing to the reception expenses, assisting with her dress, and taking care of additional costs. I never anticipated anything in return, save for the simple recognition of my significance in her daily life. At that moment, the invitation made its entrance. I opened it with a smile, anticipating the sight of my name in a cherished spot. Rather, it turned out to be merely a formal guest list. My name held no notable presence. To make matters even more complicated, Emma had selected Mark to accompany her as she walked down the aisle. Initially, I believed it to be an error. However, when I inquired about it, her reply struck me with the force of a gut-wrenching blow. "There exists but a single biological father, and I have longed to grant him this moment. The sensation is beyond words." Years filled with love, sacrifices, and unwavering effort, cast aside as if they held no value at all. Yet, the most troubling aspect was not her decision. It was the nonchalance in her voice, as if the thought of selecting me had never even brushed against her consciousness. Her wedding day stood as one of the most mortifying moments I have ever experienced. In my tailored suit, I took my place among the guests, arriving early to soak in the atmosphere. I sat in silence, observing as all attention turned to Mark, guiding Emma gracefully down the aisle. As the speeches unfolded, I lingered in anticipation, yearning for a moment when someone might recognize my presence. Not a soul did. I existed in the shadows. On that day, a part of me shattered. The aspect of my being that had perpetually embraced sacrifice simply ceased to function. Unbeknownst to me at the time, that moment signified the dawn of a transformation that would reshape everything. That moment, as Emma glided down the aisle on Mark's arm, etched itself into my memory forever. She shone with a brilliance that every bride ought to possess. Yet, for me, the picture was steeped in resentment. It wasn't that I wished her unhappiness. Rather, in that fleeting moment, I came to understand my own disposability in her eyes. In the week following their wedding, Emma and Andrew embarked on a lavish honeymoon adventure, a coastal haven boasting stunning vistas and exceptional facilities. I didn't inquire deeply into it. Engaging in conversations about the moment that shattered our relationship felt utterly impossible for me. What took me by surprise was the turn of events upon Emma's return. She scarcely found a moment to settle in before reaching out to me. Her tone was airy, as though nothing had transpired. She spoke with enthusiasm about the beaches, the unexpected dinner that Andrew orchestrated beneath the twinkling stars. I sat quietly, offering brief replies, fighting to maintain my calm. Then, the dialogue shifted in a direction I ought to have anticipated. "Father?" She spoke, the resonance of that word slicing through me more profoundly than I was willing to acknowledge. "Could you do me a small favor?" Unexpected expenses had arisen during the honeymoon, leaving them somewhat short on cash. "May I assist in covering the expense?" In that fleeting instant, words eluded me. Her casual demeanor, laced with confidence, suggested she anticipated my agreement, just as I had always obliged. I was the one who mended the broken pieces, who offered support, who selflessly gave for her without hesitation. Yet, on this occasion, a part of me stood firm in defiance. Perhaps it was a bruised ego, or perhaps it was the burden of countless years spent in the shadows. For the first time, I found myself unburdened by the need to acquiesce. "I beg your pardon, Emma," I spoke, maintaining a calm tone, even as my heart raced within my chest. "I'm unable to assist you on this occasion." Stillness. The bewilderment etched upon her features was all too vivid in my mind. "However, you've always been there for me," she finally said, her voice laced with disbelief. With a deep inhalation, I gathered my thoughts. Perhaps it would be wise to consult Mark. He is your true father, isn't he? Perhaps he holds the key to assistance. A prolonged stillness enveloped the air. Then, a silence enveloped the conversation, and she ended the call. There is no dispute. There is no anger. It concluded so suddenly, leaving a hollow ache within me. In due course, Sarah approached me with determination. She labeled me as cruel, claiming I couldn't simply forsake Emma in her time of need. I conveyed to her that the matter at hand transcended mere financial considerations. It was fundamentally about respect. For more than 2 decades, I stood by her side, Sarah. In that moment, when she could have embraced the truth, she opted instead to dismiss it as insufficient. I refused to remain her safety net whenever circumstances falter in her favor. Sarah found herself perplexed. For her, blood held precedence above all else, even when that blood had only offered hollow assurances. The dialogue concluded with an unsettling quiet, yet an unspoken shift lingered in the air between us. A barrier emerged, unseen and unprecedented, marking a division that had not existed until now. Since then, Emma has not reached out to me. Immediately following that call, Sarah informed me that Andrew was displeased with my decision to leave Emma during a challenging time. It seems that Mark had, as expected, disappeared without a trace. Silence reigns. No calls, no messages, just an empty void. It seemed that Emma was at last confronting reality, yet that revelation did nothing to alter her actions or the emotions she had stirred within me. That night, in solitude within the living room, I revisited each moment I had shared with Emma. Each time she smiled and addressed me as Dad, a realization dawned upon me. I had always thought of that title as a choice, a testament to the fact that I had rightfully claimed my place in her life. Yet, I found myself questioning whether it was merely a convenient term for her, a phrase she employed when it served her purpose. Uncertainty looms over my ability to transcend this moment. Yet one truth remains undeniable. This time, I refuse to be the one who continues to give. Truthfully, I feel as though I've exhausted all that I have to offer. Revision. 3 months have passed since the wedding, and despite my attempts to maintain a distance, drama continues to seek me out. Sarah persistently seeks to mend the rift between Emma and me, her gaze filled with a blend of disappointment and hope, as though she is anticipating my surrender to the man who once never uttered a refusal. Yet, what she fails to grasp, or perhaps chooses to ignore, is that a transformation occurred within me on that day. Returning to the past is simply not an option for me. Ever since that conversation in which I declined to cover the expenses for Emma's honeymoon, the bond between us has withered away. Her silence lingered, and though it stung initially, it has since transformed into a sense of liberation. Cease the casual check-ins that mask requests for money. What truly astonished me, however, was the rapid onset of issues within her marriage. Sarah, naturally, maintained a steady connection with Emma and nonchalantly mentioned it during dinner one evening. With a dramatic sigh, Emma and Andrew found themselves ensnared in the throes of financial struggle. Andrew has found himself without a job, and they are struggling to keep up with the rent. I continued to eat, fully aware of the direction this was heading. With unwavering determination, Sarah continued her journey. Do you not believe we ought to extend our assistance to them? She is, indeed, our daughter. I placed my fork gently on the table and inhaled deeply. I am no longer her father, Sarah. Emma asserts that the role is designated for Mark. If she requires assistance, she ought to reach out to him. Sarah regarded me as though I had uttered an unspeakable offense. What makes you so distant? She has consistently relied on you. Now is not the time to turn your back on her. A harsh laugh escaped my lips. Chilly? She treated me with a chill at her wedding. Truthfully, that was precisely the sensation it evoked. Chill and unseen. As if I hadn't devoted 2 decades to being the one who stood by her side. If Mark is her father during the significant moments, then he can certainly be her father in the challenging ones as well. The conversation came to a close. With a huff, Sarah marched away, her plate clutched tightly as she headed for the wash basin. In the stillness of that night, we surrendered to the embrace of silence as we drifted into slumber. They stood with their backs to one another. The pain of this situation weighed heavily on our relationship, yet I found myself unable to continue being the man who endlessly gave, only to receive nothing in return. In spite of all that had transpired, Emma was quick to make her presence felt, albeit indirectly. A week later, a message from Andrew arrived, brief yet laden with urgency. Greetings, this is Andrew, the husband of Emma. I wish to discuss a matter of significance with you. Are you available? I refrained from responding immediately. I allowed the message to linger, a poignant reminder of the profound shifts that had unfolded. I perused it repeatedly, fully aware of his desires. Wealth. It was perpetually about the money. In the end, I chose to listen to what he had to say. I found myself with nothing to lose. Our paths crossed at a quaint little cafe in the neighborhood. Andrew sat there, his foot rhythmically tapping, eyes fixed on the untouched coffee before him, a picture of anxious anticipation. I took my seat in silence, poised for him to break the stillness with his words. "Thank you for coming," he said at last, though his voice betrayed a distinct lack of sincerity. It seemed to carry the weight of duty. "I understand that there has been some tension between you and Emma, but we are facing a challenging period, and I thought perhaps you might be able to assist us." There it stood, the unavoidable plea. I maintained an expressionless demeanor. "What is it that you require?" I inquired, despite the fact that I was already aware. Andrew let out a deep sigh, his gaze fixed on the coffee cup before him, as if it held the elusive words he sought. Since the honeymoon, Emma and I have faced ongoing financial challenges. Recently, I found myself without a job, and as a result, we are now struggling to keep up with our rent. Failure to remit payment within 2 weeks will result in eviction. I nodded slowly, allowing his words to settle within me before posing the singular question he evidently hadn't anticipated. "Have you inquired with Mark?" Andrew gazed upward, a look of bewilderment crossing his face. Mark? We have yet to engage in conversation with him. Emma pondered the possibility that assistance could be offered. She has always found you by her side. I smiled, though the warmth was absent from my expression. It was a cruel twist of fate, steeped in irony. Precisely, I remarked, inclining closer. And yet, when faced with the choice, she chose Mark. Regrettably, Andrew, I must decline to assist this time around. Perhaps the moment has come for Mark to truly rise to the occasion, at last. Andrew attempted to make his case, asserting that it would be unjust for them to face eviction, emphasizing that this situation extended beyond Emma. It involved him as well. I raised my hand to halt his advance. This dialogue has reached its conclusion, I declared with conviction. I wish you both well, but I can no longer be the one to resolve your issues. I rose from my seat, abandoning him to his untouched cold coffee and simmering frustration. Upon my arrival, Sarah stood there, an air of anticipation surrounding her, as if she possessed an uncanny awareness of the events that had unfolded. I withheld the details from her. She found no necessity for them. She sensed my unwillingness to assist. Since that moment, Emma and Andrew have ceased their efforts. Though Sarah has ceased her insistence, the shadow of her discontent lingers still. Yet, a whisper in the air suggests that this tale is far from its conclusion. As a fortress falls to ruin, the remnants of its grandeur scatter like whispers in the wind. It has been 6 months since the wedding, and I must admit, these months have felt oddly freeing. I have remained resolute in my choice to steer clear of Emma and Andrew's troubles, even if it has led to navigating Sarah's unending bitterness. Though her words remain unspoken, the truth is reflected in her gaze. She remains unforgiving, viewing my actions as a profound betrayal. Regardless of how often I articulate that this matter transcends monetary concerns and delves into the realm of respect, she either fails to grasp it or chooses to ignore it. Yet, the space that now exists between Emma and myself has ushered in an unforeseen sense of relief. After years of bearing the burden of keeping everything in place, I finally feel a sense of liberation. I have begun to redirect my attention inward, revisiting cherished pastimes such as woodworking and dedicating more moments to the company of friends, elements of my life that have been overlooked for far too long. Initially, a sense of guilt washed over me for claiming this space for my own, yet I have come to recognize its necessity. The drama continues unabated. A few weeks back, Sarah revealed to me that Emma and Andrew had finally been evicted. They found themselves unable to scrape together the funds needed to stay current on their rent, and their landlord's patience had worn thin. Currently, they find themselves residing with Andrew's mother in a confined flat, where the space is scarcely sufficient for 2 individuals, much less for a married couple. Sarah's fury was palpable as she confronted me, declaring, "This wouldn't have happened if you had helped them." Her tone dripped with the now familiar weight of blame. I chose not to reply. No words I uttered held any significance. Sarah consistently viewed me as the antagonist in any struggle that Emma encountered. What she fails to understand is that, beneath the surface, I am certain I made the right choice. Emma decided to cast me aside, and now she must confront the repercussions of her decisions. Isn't it ironic? As Sarah observes, Mark has been utterly missing throughout this entire ordeal. He remained silent when Emma sought his assistance. Hardly unexpected. Throughout his entire existence, he has consistently demonstrated a lack of reliability. Yet, I find it intriguing. Despite all the energy Emma devoted to elevating him to a position of reverence, he is conspicuously absent when she truly requires his presence. A few days ago, as Sarah was preparing dinner, she shared something that nearly caused me to burst into laughter. Emma expresses her frustration that Mark, who had assured her he would assist in her search for a new home, has yet to fulfill his promise. He claims he is biding his time until his financial situation finds its equilibrium. I arched an eyebrow, gazing at her with incredulity. Does Emma still hold on to her belief in him? Despite a lifetime filled with shattered promises, she continues to place her faith in him? I inquired, not out of frustration, but from a place of sincere interest. With a heavy sigh, Sarah gazed at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. He's her father, she stated plainly, as though that alone sufficed to clarify all. The echoes of that conversation danced in my thoughts. For years, I endeavored to occupy the emptiness that Mark had left in Emma's existence. Yet, a question lingered in my mind. Had it all been for naught? Perhaps, For her, the essence of biology held greater significance than mere actions. Perhaps my struggle was not against Mark's presence itself, but rather with the mere reality of his existence. A week ago, Emma made the long-awaited decision to reach out to me. To my astonishment, the matter at hand transcended mere financial concerns. She reached out with a message, expressing a desire to meet and discuss something important. After much contemplation, I finally mustered the courage to respond. Ultimately, it was curiosity that triumphed. We encountered each other at a park that held memories from her childhood. Emma sat on the bench, her fingers dancing restlessly as she fidgeted with her hands, a picture of nervous anticipation. As I drew near, she rose to her feet and offered me a tentative embrace, a gesture that lacked authenticity, yet I embraced it for the sake of courtesy. For a brief moment, we lingered in an uncomfortable hush. Then she began to speak, yet her words drifted away from the reason she had summoned me there. Instead, she recounted the challenges of cohabiting with Andrew's mother, the strain in her marriage, and the deep longing she felt for her own space. I absorbed every word, allowing the silence to envelop the conversation. It was evident that she carried a heavy burden, eager to share her thoughts. At last, she arrived at the crux of the matter. "Father," she uttered, a term that once held profound significance for me, yet now resonates with emptiness. "I understand that I have let you down. I understand that the wedding caused you pain. I don't believe I truly understood the depth of it all until the moment had passed me by." I remained patient, allowing her to proceed. Within me, a whirlwind of emotions stirred. A profound sense of disbelief, an overwhelming sadness, and a persistent undercurrent of resentment. Emma inhaled deeply before continuing. "I wish to express my sincerest apologies for the way events unfolded. It was never my intention to make you feel as though you were being replaced. Yet you did," I responded with a steady resolve. "And not merely at the wedding, Emma. Each time, you overlooked all that I did for you. Each time you opted to perceive Mark as something he never truly embodied. Your words suggest a concern for my feelings, yet I can't shake the feeling that I was never truly in that position at all." Emma cast her gaze downward, clearly unsettled by what I had just said. Perhaps she had anticipated that I would effortlessly embrace her apology and revert to the way things once were. Yet, that possibility had slipped away. There are certain things that, once shattered, remain irreparable. The dialogue concluded not long after. As we parted ways, she expressed her hope that, with time, we might mend the fabric of our relationship. I chose not to reply, not due to a lack of desire, but rather from uncertainty about its feasibility. Emma shattered my heart into a million pieces. She broke through to something profound, my faith in her. Revision. I committed an act that will forever haunt the hearts of both Sarah and Emma, leaving no room for forgiveness. And truthfully, I find myself questioning whether I should even seek forgiveness. Over the course of the last year, following the wedding, my bond with Sarah has deteriorated in ways I never imagined could happen. What began as a mere emotional distance has evolved into an insurmountable chasm. The affection, the connection, and even the admiration we once held seem to have vanished. We continue to inhabit the same space, yet our lives have diverged. Ever since the wedding, intimacy has eluded us. Initially, I believed it to be a fleeting occurrence, the outcome of tension. Yet, as the months unfolded, it became clear to me that Sarah's feelings ran deeper than mere upset. She harbored a deep-seated resentment. She held me responsible for Emma's anguish. That resentment permeated every facet of our marriage. The evenings we used to share, filled with conversation and cinematic adventures, have transformed into a void of silence. Each time I extend my hand, she retreats, constructing a barrier that separates us. Amidst the vast void, another soul stepped into my existence. Sophie, the closest companion of Sarah. She had always been present, the spirited aunt to Emma, presenting lavish offerings and sharing amusing anecdotes. Yet, following the wedding, a shift occurred. She began to reach out more frequently, inquiring about my well-being. Initially, I believed she was attempting to mend the rift between Sarah and me. Yet, as time passed, I came to understand that it encompassed much more. Sophie was the sole individual who genuinely paid attention. She revealed to me what remained unspoken by others. I was indeed correct, that my emotions held significance. I felt that I had been subjected to unjust treatment. Sarah's actions felt unjust towards me. Our dialogues transformed into moments I eagerly anticipated. In her eyes, I was not the antagonist of this tale. This was not something I would claim was orchestrated, for it certainly was not. It simply occurred. A river carving its own course anew, on a quiet evening. Following yet another deep conversation, we found ourselves enveloped in silence, simply gazing into one another's eyes. We had conversed about it all. In my own home, I often felt like a ghost, unseen and unheard. How Sarah had become distant. How my life seemed to be unraveling. Suddenly, Sophie grasped my hand and uttered words that rendered me utterly speechless. Happiness is your rightful pursuit. Yet, they refuse to grant you that freedom. Something about the way her voice drew me in, the intensity of her gaze, captivated me. Yet, before I could fully comprehend the moment, our lips had met in a kiss. Yet she remained close. That evening, I chose not to return home. I dedicated the hours to Sophie, engaging in conversation, chortling with delight, allowing a tide of long-buried feelings to emerge at last. After what felt like an eternity, I finally sensed the warmth of recognition. A sense of being desired enveloped me. What mattered most was the sense of being truly understood. I'm fully aware that my actions are misguided, yet I feel no remorse. Sophie has served as my refuge, a person who genuinely perceives my essence. In her, I discovered what had slipped away with Sarah. Bond. Sarah harbors a suspicion. Her gaze follows me as I return home in the late hours or slip outside to respond to messages. Yet, she has not faced me. Sophie grapples with her own sense of guilt as well. Yet neither of us harbors any regrets about our actions. I am acutely aware that this moment is fleeting. Once Sarah discovers the truth, there's no going back. Yet, at this moment, a sense of solitude eludes me. Concluding update. 2 years have slipped away. In retrospect, it resembles a far-off tempest. Yet the scars linger on. I have reconstructed my existence. Yet I remain uncertain if I can ever reverse the harm done. Sarah and Emma have severed all ties with me. In a sense, they liberated me. Upon my confession, Sarah's response surpassed the intensity one had envisioned. Before I had the chance to utter a word, she confronted me. What could this possibly be? I have observed the transformation you've undergone. Revealed to me the reality. I let it slip. Sophie and I have been spending time together. In my darkest moments, she stood by my side when others turned away. Sarah's expression morphed from disbelief to rage. Then arrived the words that continue to linger in my mind. Thus, everything. Did everything we created hold no significance for you? I remained rooted to the spot, utterly at a loss for words. All my efforts were aimed at preserving the unity of my family. Yet, I had faltered. Is that you, Sarah? My voice trembled as I spoke. In your quest to rescue Emma, I found myself adrift. Yet, you remained oblivious to it all. Her scream pierced the air, a sound so sharp it was almost painful. Your actions are beyond redemption. What could possibly lead you to shatter our family? Emma entered the room. She was already aware. Her voice was a chilling whisper. I had higher expectations for you. Yet, you never truly cared, did you? Your only desire was to become the hero. Behold the consequences of your actions. That is simply not the case. I spoke, my voice quivering. You distanced yourself from me. Mark was your choice. And in those moments of need, it seemed I was merely meant to provide the solution. Yet, despite my all, it seemed to fall short. Did it suffice? Sarah's voice pierced the air. This betrayal cannot be justified. Clara, it's time to depart. And just like that, I was asked to depart, to refrain from any further communication with them. It pained me deeply. Yet, amidst it all, a sense of relief washed over me. All hope had vanished. I settled into a cozy little flat. The journey through divorce proved to be utterly draining. Yet, the true anguish lay not in the courtroom struggle. It was the realization that the life I had crafted was now lost. Amidst the chaos, Sophie remained steadfast. My solace, my drive. She offered no forgiveness for my errors. Yet, she refrained from passing judgment on me. Months later, as I began to stitch the fragments of my life into a coherent whole, a message from Emma arrived. Father, I understand that I have caused you pain. I recognize that I have let you down. Yet, you shall forever hold the title of my father. I apologize. I understand that nothing will return to its former state. Yet, my love for you will remain eternal. I refrained from responding immediately. The scars remained painfully fresh. Perhaps, in the future, I shall discover tranquilly. Yet, at this moment, I press on, undeterred by what I have set aside.